Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Beacon Film Podcast, which is still lacking a name. I'm Liam Newberry, and with me as ever is Jay Simonian and Charity Alfaya. I went to go see Coco, and they rewatched The Book of Life so that we could compare and contrast it. I'm too lazy to rewatch it, and they couldn't go to see the new one. So we have a cut-up podcast for you today. Also, I'm sick. Jay, why don't you introduce The Book of Life first, since it came out first?
Wow. The Book of Life came out in 2014. Its director was George R. Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher that last name.
Spanish name.
It's a Spanish last name.
Gutierrez, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Starring
Diego Luna, Zoe Saldana, and Channing Tatum.
Oh, yeah.
Also featuring Ice Cube and Machete.
Featuring Ice Cube. It's Danny Trejo.
Machete.
No, that's not his name.
Did you know Ice Cube was in The Book of Life?
I did not, but now I cannot unknow that. So, yeah. Why don't you give a short plot summary for those who don't know?
So The Book of Life is basically a love triangle between a girl and two guys, and one of them actually faces death in order to save her, and so when he dies, he goes down into the underworld, which isn't really the underworld, but like that's
Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead, yeah. And it's really cool because the whole story is based on a story. Like the whole story is based on a story, and they're all wooden figures.
It starts in a museum, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Starts in a museum.
So Coco just released by Pixar, and that was that's obviously it's 2017, so that's the year it came out.
Yeah.
It was directed by Lee Unkrich, who I've never heard of, but who the guy who directed Book of Life has been plugging for a long time. Apparently they know each other or something, professional connections. It stars Anthony Gonzalez and Jesus Christ, Gail Garcia Bernal, I think is how you pronounce his name. But you know what? I'm white, so I'm not really
just stupid Americans.
Yeah. And this one it follows the whole going into the underworld story, but this one's a bit different. This kid is part of a family who despises music because an ancestor of theirs was a musician and left the family, and so they reject music, except for this one kid several generations later who loves it. And so in order to make his dreams come true, he steals the guitar of a famous Latin musician, which transports him to the underworld, and he has to go through all these he has to jump through all these hoops to, get back to the land of the living. And along the way, he discovers some secrets about his family, which are, and how family is important. So, on its surface, it's just it's a light tale about a kid learning, to follow his dreams of music, but really it's more of a familial tale about how love is
but it is
transcendent.
Very similar, and when they pitched the idea of Coco, everyone who watched The Book of Life was like, this is complete garbage, and just a remake. Because also in The Book of Life, there's Manolo, who loves music, but his family despises it because they're all bullfighters, and so since they're all bullfighters, exactly. It's like, you have to follow the family tradition.
In Coco, they're shoemakers, but it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah,
that's why
it's not the same thing. Don't bullfight with a shoe, but but
that would be bad. Just a bull coming at you, you just throw a shoe at it.
I mean, it might work. You don't know. Maybe if you use stilettos.
Stilettos may work.
But yeah, I think stylistically, it's very similar. Of course, the whole wooden doll thing is unique.
That was what I found really nice about it.
How would you surmise the Book of Life's art style? Because you're a visual artist, you can sort of skim that.
It's very bright and very colorful.
Yeah.
Also, the style, the fact that it goes back and forth from the real world, from the kids being in the museum and being told this story, to the wooden characters that they are.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see the fact that Manolo has a wooden guitar and he had his name like carved in it. Yeah. I was like, is that how they get tattoos? They just carve themselves because they're made out of wood?
Yeah. I think that the whole bright and colorful thing, that's just a staple of Mexican.
The Day of the Dead.
Yeah, of the Day of the Dead in general. because that's what this ultimately both of these movies celebrate. The Book of Life is a tale of how the Day of the Dead began, and Coco is sort of uses the Day of the Dead as not a MacGuffin, but a framework to work around. And I think that's really important to consider when thinking about art style, because you say it's very colorful, but I mean, it's going to be very colorful. It's which is funny because Coco actually, it has its moments of color, but there are a lot of moments when it's very steeped in blue and it's all one color. There's a scene when the main character Miguel he gets his guitar in the underworld, and there's a scene there where they're like in this place where the people who don't have families go in the land of the dead because they can't visit because the families don't put their picture on the whatever. And they visit some curmudgeonly old dude, and his house is all shades of blue. And there's one very striking moment of orange. And blue and orange, obviously, they're complementary colors. Yeah. So that really,
I was watching the trailer, and I remember, I think there was the scene where he was first getting the guitar in the trailer, and it kind of like had a cast of blue because it was at night, and once he stroked the guitar, there was like orange flames. Yeah. That's very symbolic, in a sense, of the complementary colors.
Yeah, because
I can tell that they use it a lot in the movie just by the trailer.
They do use it a lot. Yes.
Yes.
The flower petals are how you connect the living world to the land of the dead. So it's important for that. So what do you say to people who say that Coco is just a ripoff of the Book of Life? Because I thought they were actually very different movies.
I mean, I haven't seen Coco, so personally I think it might be a ripoff, but I also don't have the money to go see it.
That's true. But if you look at the Twitter feed of the guy who directed the other one, George or Jorge, Jorge R. Gutierrez.
He liked it.
He really did. He was supporting it, and he thought that he thought that it was important that everybody go to see it because it really embraces Mexican culture. Do you think Book of Life, and obviously neither of us are Mexican, so that doesn't really help, but do you think that Book of Life does a good job of, from what you know about Mexican culture, reflecting that in its movie?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah?
Yeah, especially when they did the graves, like in the beginning when they were showing the Day of the Dead, and like all the kids were very young, how it showed them and had the gravestones and the bread. Because my grandmother actually went to Mexico, and the graves were actually like that, how they were elongated.
So, yeah.
And had bread all around it. Like, it was very nice to see. They're very colorful, too.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That's the whole point. I always picture Mexico like Day of the Dead being like a New Orleans funeral, where they're just like, they're playing music, and they're just like having a grand old time, getting super drunk, and it's like, I think that Coco, from what I know about Mexican culture, even like the spirit guides are a very important part of that. And I know I have a couple of friends who come from that heritage who have like these little statues of the spirit guides, and so I was like, that's it's cool that they included that kind of thing into and I guess it goes with the whole theme, of course, but. Still.
I'm not sure how Book of Life did with the culture and everything, obviously, because I'm American.
Yeah.
But
they did have covers of very popular songs.
Yes, they did.
Songs,
yes.
Which are not Mexican.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Actually, looking at the soundtrack of both movies. Go ahead.
I loved the details that they put. Like, they had the guy who controlled the Dark World.
Yeah.
With the Forgotten People.
The Forgotten Realm, or whatever it's called, yeah.
His eyes were mini skulls, and I thought that was amazing.
Weren't they?
Yeah. Like, his pupils were skulls, and everywhere he looked, the skull would turn. It's just details like that were so cool. Mm-hmm. Like, the flames were flickering on the lady's dress, too.
Yeah. And he was voiced by Ron Perlman. Which is a strange casting choice, but it worked. It worked. It was. He did well.
Hey, the candle maker was voiced by Ice Cube.
Okay.
So I mean,
yeah, that's true. I just picture Hellboy as Zibaba. What was his name?
I'm not.
It was something like that.
It starts with an X. That's all I can tell you.
Here we go. Zabalba. or however you pronounce that. I can't.
Xibalba.
Xibalba. Yeah. No,
It was-
Hellboy and Xibalba. It's just it's funny to me. I think that the soundtrack of Coco is all mariachi music. It's all, you know, what do you think of when you think of Mexican mariachi music? It's like, you know, the Spanish guitar and the trumpet and the maracas. That I think it did a really really great job of you know I'm gonna have to cut this. I think the movie did a really good job of sort of reflecting that Mexican mariachi feel that, you know, you get. Like, when you listen to, like, Latin singers and stuff, because I listen to a ton of different types of jazz, and included in that is bossa nova tunes and Latin stuff. And you get a lot of the things that you hear in Coco, you know, the Spanish guitar with the trumpet and everything.
But
And I
the
think they
Book
did
of Life
The Book of Life
did
has
covers.
pop songs.
They had Elvis. They had, I think that was Radiohead. I think they had Radiohead at one
Do
point.
they have Taylor Swift?
They might have.
They might have.
Let me check the
I think they
soundtrack.
had Taylor Swift.
Did they?
Yeah, I think so. Don't quote me on that.
They had a lot of pop songs, which was actually, it was a nice touch.
Mm-hmm. You think? Why?
think-
How do you think that adds to the movie?
Because it adds a sort of American culture to it too, because our songs are heard around the world, and it just kind of
That's true. We
Yeah.
do produce a lot of
music.
yeah. We export a lot of music.
And it's more for the fact that, like, we can influence them as much as they can influence us.
Yeah.
I think it's relatable.
Relatable? How?
I don't know. Just people listen to pop music all the time on the radio.
That's because we're Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
This
don't.
is good.
Yeah.
So
So they have,
Americans
like-
relate to the movie because of it.
I will wait. I love you too much. Do you think I'm sexy?
Oh my
No
God.
matter where you are. Yeah. There's a lot of live life. There's a lot of
There's a lot of original songs too.
that too. Yeah. Well, they had those listed in there, but they're Spanish names, and I don't want to butcher any more than I already have.
There was one song that I
so-
love to listen to, even now when I don't watch the movie. I know it as the apology song. And it's when he's singing it to save his life and his family's life.
Yeah. And
And-
that's because, I mean, I think humility is an important part of the Book of Life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Like when you look at when you look at like what the plot's about, it's about sort of like
Saving the
it's-
ones you love.
Yeah, but it's also recognizing when you've lost. You know what I mean?
hmm
Which is something that doesn't often get put into movies nowadays, because I think movies have embraced modern cinema has really embraced the whole idea of like the power fantasy and the good guy that always succeeds, especially with superhero films. And so you come back to a movie like Book of Life, and even there's moments like this in Coco too, where you sort of recognize when the protagonist has lost something, and that's, you know, and you're not gonna get it back, and that's the way the world works. And I think that's an important part of both movies, and
Should be put into more movies.
I think it should be, yeah. And I think that's why we enjoyed both of these movies so much. I think that'll about do it for us today. I think we did a pretty good analysis of the two movies.
Go see both of them.
Yep.
Highly recommend The Book of Life. We
Yeah.
watched it in Miss Maury's class.
I'd recommend Coco as well. I think Pixar really, you know, they
Was the
they
dog good?
tapped into the
Was the
dog
dog a
great.
good
Dog was
touch?
excellent. Love the good dog. I'd love not naming my dog Dante. I love the Divine Comedy. I think it's a great book, and the dog's name in the movie is Dante, and I was like, it's a good name.
It's a good
They're
name.
on. Hold on to that. But yeah, I think Pixar really stepped it up for Coco. Like I didn't like Finding Dory that much.
I love
And so I was
I
like,
love it.
no, I didn't like it that much. And so I thought was, you know, maybe Pixar's, you know, kind of losing it, but I think they really made it back with Coco. I think they really.
I think they
finished
go
2000
through good and bad times.
Yeah, they
Pixar.
finished 2017 strong. You know, put it that way. Anyway, that's our look at Coco and the Book of Life. So thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.